I'm Margaret Bertram, and I'm from Active Minds Speakers Bureau, The Herd. And for the next little while, you can feel free to call me Margot. My friends do, and we're gonna be friends. But after that hour, your time's up. It's back to Margaret.
We think of these extreme words when we think of mental health, but we wouldn't think of someone like me who suffers from depression and tried to take his own life.
But somehow, right now, I'm standing in front of you and I'm speaking to you today about my experiences. And that means that things got better eventually. Somehow I got help and it worked.
All that you want, the sky above the blue, all that my love couldn't prove.
Looking back now, I see that always being like the beacon of positivity and never talking about uncomfortable subjects with, like my dad, was a way of sort of coping with my family dynamic.
My whole sense of meaning had been totally disrupted. Is the world meaningful? Am I safe in it? Am I completely vulnerable? These were new questions.
There was something else that happened with my dad that made me realize that just because everyone seems like they have it all together, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going on the inside.
Now this feels like being nervous times 1,000. My heart was racing, but I couldn't get out of bed. I felt like I was almost outside of myself. I couldn't feel my hands or my feet, and I had trouble articulating anything except for my name. It was terrifying, and it subsided. After about a week, the panic subsided, but my whole last 2 years in college, I was sort of in this fog.
All the things we'd hoped for, they'd all come true.
You know, I didn't know what Josh was thinking or feeling. And I certainly didn't understand it at 15. All I knew was that I found myself racing around the house, trying to gather up pictures, any picture that Josh was in.
Life up to 12 was a fairy tale. You know, I just had this awesome life where my family meant so much to me and I was doing so great, you know, in sports. But my mom started noticing these odd behaviors. I was touching the corners of tables, turning light switches on and off, and staring at specific objects for hours on end. And she got scared. So she decided to take me to a psychologist.
My legs hurt sometimes, but that's it. You know, I'm fine now. And she was like, you know, there's other issues. There's mental health issues. And I was like, what?
For me, what would happen was I would feel really restless, and my head would feel like it was going a million miles an hour. And I'd do things like, you know, irrational things. Maybe I'd drive my car in ways that made my friends really nervous. And mania would get to the point where people got concerned, even if I couldn't see it.
And in my mind, I didn't want to go see a therapist because I'm a 16-year-old guy in high school. There's no reason for me to go and talk about my emotions or my feelings. So I didn't want to go. But my mom talked me into going, meaning she forced me to go. And so I get there and I walk into my therapist's office and it's this older white lady. And I have nothing against older white ladies, but I look at her and I say, how could she ever understand what it's like for a 16-year-old male going through high school?
Others saying, how come you don't show me that you care? And you're all like, you know, I love you, baby, but I can't. I'm strapped for cash. Give me another week. And at some point, your actions have to line up with all those things that you're saying. It sounds really good, but if you don't follow through, that relationship's gonna fall apart. You're afraid to commit, and I was afraid to commit to my treatment. But what that meant was that my physical health continued to decline, and my mental health soon followed.
Well, this road I'm on's gonna turn to sand, leave me lost in a far-off land. So let me ride the wind till I don't look back, and forget the life that I almost had. If I wanted to.
Here I was back in in society, as they call it. And you know, I really couldn't relate to anyone anymore. I didn't have that structure of the military anymore. I didn't have my friends that I was with.
And we always say that you don't get to pick what happens to you. You don't get to pick if your parents get divorced. You don't get to pick if you have depression or an eating disorder. You don't get to pick these things. What you can do is pick how you're going to handle them.
Sitting out there in the audience and you know, you're having these same types of emotions or feelings and you're not sure where to turn to, you know, some easy places to start are the counselors here on your campus.
Breaking my heart to keep singing these rhymes and losing again.
That and not living life in the I'm fine and I'm okay all the time like I used to try to do, but living life in I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm frustrated. All those things are the normal way to live your life.
How did you cope with that? Did you go out and drink? Did you go punch someone in the face? I mean, these things happen. And it did take me a while, but I had to learn that those negative coping mechanisms were not helping me.
Graduate on time. And she's just sort of asked kind of gently and matter-of-factly, what happens if you don't live to cross that stage?
I don't think it's healthy for anyone to really hide their feelings and their thoughts, especially if you've been through a war.
Let me living in. The longer I run and the less that I find, selling my soul for a nickel and dime, breaking my heart to keep singing these rhymes and losing again. The longer I run and the less that I find, selling my soul for a nickel.
I know that this is tough to hear, but it is our responsibility to erase the stigma that surrounds mental disorders in our country.
Maybe this is something that you want to get involved in. ActiveMinds.org is a great website to start.
Losing